Hi everyone, I'm Linda Reimer, one of the librarians at the Southeast Steuben County Library. Welcome to Library Connections, our weekly Reader's Advisory video cast. Enjoy. Library Connections number 111. This is the Friday, August 19th, 2022 edition of Library Connections. Jumping right in with the top 5 fiction bestsellers for this week from the New York Times. At number 1, Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. In a quiet town on the North Carolina coast in 1969, a young woman who survived alone in the marsh becomes a murder suspect. At number 2, It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. A battered wife, raised in a violent home, attempts to halt the cycle of abuse. At number 3, Verity by Colleen Hoover. Loan Ashley is hired by the husband of an injured writer to complete her popular series, and she uncovers a horrifying truth. At number 4, Ugly Love, also by Colleen Hoover. Tate Collins and Miles Archer, an airline pilot, think they can handle a no-strings-attached arrangement, and they discover they can't. And I have to just make a note about how impressive it is that one author, Colleen Hoover, has 3 books on the top 5 of the New York Times bestseller list for this week, and also to note that she's very popular on TikTok, which, if you're not familiar with it, is a social media platform somewhat similar to Facebook or Twitter. So that's, I think, the way her name is getting out there. Read books by Colleen Hoover on TikTok. Thus, 3 books in the top 5 on the New York Times bestseller list, which is just me finding that interesting. So I'm digressing again. Moving on to number 5, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. A movie icon recounts stories of her loves and career to a struggling magazine writer. Moving on to the top 5 nonfiction bestsellers for this week, and I have to comment on the first one. I don't usually comment on the titles, but this title is really a whopper. At number 1, I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. The actress and filmmaker describes her eating disorders and difficult relationship with her mother. Goodness, I guess so, because that's a really negative title for a book. But I digress. That's just my 2 cents worth, which is worth about 2 cents. Moving on to number 2, we've got The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. How trauma affects the body and mind, and innovative treatments for recovery. At number 3, Path Lit by Lightning by David Moranis. The life story of the Olympic athlete, All-American football player, and Major League Baseball player Jim Thorpe. At number 4, The Destructionists by Dana Milbank. The Washington Post columnist describes Republican actions between the signing of the contract with America and the January 6th insurrection. And at number 5, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. A botanist and member of the Citizens Potawatomi Nation, espouses having an understanding and appreciation of plants and animals. Our first recommended read for this week is the new Will Thomas mystery, Fierce Poison. 5 stars for the latest installment in Thomas's popular Barker and Llewellyn detective series. set in 1890s London. Influenced by his love of iconic author Rex Stout, Thomas injects his work with elements reminiscent of Stout's detective duo of Nero Wolfe and Archie Goodwin. But at the same time, this series, intricately plotted, humorous, atmospheric, and rich in multidimensional characters, is in no way derivative. Barker and Llewellyn's latest case begins when a man comes to their office, begs for help, then collapses and dies. The victim, Roland Fitzhugh, was a barrister and member of Parliament, and the autopsy shows he was poisoned. Initially, Barker and Llewellyn surmise he was killed by a political enemy or someone he sent to prison. But then, a spate of similar poisonings occur with a poor East End family, one of Barker's servants, and even Barker's dog among the targets. Okay, now that's awful, I have to say. You don't target people's dogs, but I'm digressing. Back to Barker and Llewellyn and the poisonings. The seeming randomness in the choice of victims is baffling. But when Barker and Llewellyn themselves are nearly killed, they conclude that they've been the poisoner's real targets all along. It takes every bit of their investigative prowess to finally unmask the killer and the tragic motive that set off the poisoning spree. A superb mystery that's sure to appeal to a wide range of fans. And that's the book list review. And indeed, this is the 13th novel in the Barker and Llewellyn series. So if you'd like to start reading from the beginning, jump right in and read book 1, Some Danger Involved. Our second recommended read for this week is a book that's actually coming out on Tuesday, the 23rd. It's the new William Kent Krueger novel, Fox Creek. In Edgar Winter Krueger's outstanding 19th mystery, featuring P.I. Cork O'Connor of Minnesota's Merrimack County, Cork is tending the grill at his burger joint when he's approached by a stranger who introduces himself as Louis Merceau. Louis wants the P.I. to find his wife Dolores, who he believes is having an affair with Henry Malou. Cork immediately knows something is wrong because his friend Henry, an Ojibwe healer, is more than 100 years old. Henry is indeed with Dolores, who's having a cleansing sweat under the guidance of Cork's wife Rainey, who's also Henry's great niece. Dolores later confirms that the stranger is not her husband Louis, who has been missing. Henry uses his highly developed sense of mysticism to lead Dolores and Rainey deep into the Boundary Waters wilderness to escape two killers pursuing the women. Meanwhile, Cork and Dolores' brother-in-law, Anton, a tribal cop, follows the killers. Krueger skillfully blends an evocative look at nature's beauty and peril with Native American lore. Not just regional mystery fans will be enthralled. And that's the Starred Publishers Weekly Review. And as noted, Fox Creek is the 19th book in the series. If you'd like to start reading from the beginning, check out Book 1, Iron Lake. Moving on to our first audiobook recommendation for this week, I'm going to recommend a title I know I've recommended before. It's David McCullough's 1776, and the reason is one you've probably heard of, and that's that the author himself died last week. McCullough was a great historian who wrote critically acclaimed and accessible books on John Adams, Harry Truman, and Teddy Roosevelt, among other subjects. And he even narrated the classic Ken Burns documentary, The Civil War. I know not everyone is a history fan. Many people think history is just a bunch of dates and that it's boring. But really, if you're reading top-notch history, written by one of the best practitioners of history writing, and David McCullough was, history can relay stories that are just as juicy and engrossing as the best mystery or urban fantasy novels. So as an example, I'm going to recommend the audiobook version of 1776. You could read the book version as well if you prefer. This is one of his relatively shorter works, and let me tell you a little about it. Best-selling historian and two-time Pulitzer winner McCullough follows up his biography, John Adams, by staying with America's founding, focusing on a year rather than an individual, a momentous 12 months in the fight for independence. Basically, the book relays the answer to the question, how did a group of ragtag farmers defeat the world's greatest empire? As McCullough vividly shows, they did it with a great deal of suffering, determination, ingenuity, and the author notes, luck. Although brief by McCullough's standards, this is a narrative tour de force, exhibiting all the hallmarks the author is known for: fascinating subject matter, expert research, and detailed, graceful prose. Throughout, McCullough deftly captures both sides of the conflict. The British commander, Lord General Howe, perhaps not fully accepting that the rebellion could succeed, underestimated the Americans' ingenuity. In turn, the outclassed Americans used the cover of night, surprise, and an abiding hunger for victory to astonishing effect. Henry Knox, for example, trekked 300 miles each way over harsh winter terrain to bring 120,000 pounds of artillery from Fort Ticonderoga to Boston, enabling the Americans in a stealthy nighttime advance to seize Dorchester Heights, thus winning the whole city. Can you imagine trekking 300 miles on foot and by horse, even one way with artillery? Wow. But I'm digressing. Back to the book review here. Luck, McCullough writes, also played into the American cause. A vicious winter storm, for example, stalled a British counterattack at Boston, and twice Washington staged improbable daring escapes when the war could have been lost. Similarly, McCullough says, the cruel Northeaster, in which Washington's troops famously crossed the Delaware, was both a blessing and a curse. McCullough keenly renders the harshness of the elements, the rampant disease, and the constant supply shortfalls, from gunpowder to food, that affected morale on both sides. And it certainly didn't help the British that it took 6 weeks to relay news to and from London. Simply put, this is history writing at its best from one of its top practitioners. And that's the Starred Publishers Weekly Review. And I think I would add, David McCullough's works are accessible. If you're not a huge history fan, they are accessible. If you read them, it's like being told a good story. So check it out. Our second audiobook recommendation for this week is the new Emma Donoghue novel, Haven. This one is historical fiction. Skellig Michael, a steep, rocky island off the southwestern Irish coast, is the setting for this atmospheric work, an imagined story about its early human inhabitants. In the 7th century, Art, a scholar priest, guided by a dream, asks two monks to join him on a pilgrimage to an empty isle less tainted by the world's breath. Excited at achieving a greater life purpose, the elderly Cormac, a talented storyteller and mason, agrees to go, as does Train, a lanky, adventurous young man. From the days-long boat journey, through their mission to establish an island settlement and worship God appropriately, their work is arduous. Donohue's prose glimmers with images of the pristine natural world, including many varieties of seabirds. But as Art's sanctimonious piety increasingly challenges common sense, Cormac and Train wonder if their vows of obedience will doom them. As always, Donohue extracts realistic emotions from characters interacting within close quarters and delicately explores the demands of faith. The evocative historical novel also works as a cautionary tale about the dangers of religious control. High-demand backstory, Donohue's readers and all lovers of thought-provoking literary fiction will be looking for this quietly dramatic tale. And that's the book list review. Want more reading, listening, and viewing recommendations? Check out the Tech and Book Talk blog, which offers weekly recommendations. It's found at sscltech.com, and you can check out the back catalog of Library Connections videos on the Southeast Steuben County Library's YouTube channel. So just go to YouTube and type in Southeast Steuben County Library to get started. Moving on to our next section, next week at the library, we'll take a brief look at the programs being hosted by the library, both on and off site, for the week ahead of us. That's the week of August 22nd through the 27th. This information can also be found online. Just visit the library's website, found at ssclibrary.org, and click on the big bold calendar link you'll see near the top of our homepage. And on a registration note, registration is required for programs unless otherwise specified, or unless the program is of the online on-demand variety like programs on Facebook or YouTube. You can register for programs through the library's website, by calling the library, or just plain dropping by. On Monday, August 22nd, we've got one program at the library. From 10 to 11 a.m., we have Messy Monday Storytime. This program is being held in Fallbrook Park, and it is not required, but it is recommended that kids bring a change of clothes because this is a short story time followed by a messy activity, which should be fun and messy. On Tuesday, August 23rd, we have 3 programs in Library Land. Adult Scrabble, which is held in the library's reading room from 9 to 11 a.m. Then from 10 to 10:30 a.m., we have Story Time with Miss Sue, a story time being held at the library. And then finally, a program that is full, but as a reminder for those who have registered, between 6 and 7 p.m., you can pick up your August Junior Chef kit. This month, the kids are making a pepperoni pizza that looks like a fish. So you'll pick up your kit between 6 and 7 p.m., and then there's an online component where an instructor shows you how to make the pizza fish. If you've got kids at home that like to cook, you'll want to check our calendar of event for future Junior Chef programs and register ASAP because they fill up fast. On Wednesday, August 24th, we've got 4 programs at the library. The first is Dive into Kindergarten Storytime, which runs from 10 to 10:30 a.m. This program is being held in Fallbrook Park. Then from noon to 1 p.m., we've got Sticky Notes Thematic Book Club online. This is a Zoom program, so if you have questions about the theme of the month, or if you want to register, you contact the hostess, Michelle Wells. Her contact information is at the end of this video, along with the contact information for the rest of the program hosts. Moving on from 1 to 3 p.m., we have Mahjong, which is held in the library's reading room. And then from 6 to 8 p.m., we have the Corning Adult Writers Group, which is a hybrid program currently being held both at the library and via Zoom. On Thursday, August 25th, we've got one program at the library. It's the End of Summer Dance Party with Doc Possum. From 1 to 2 p.m., this is our Bon Voyage program. Bye-bye to the summer reading season, and hello fall, which is on the horizon. On Friday, August 26th, we've got 3 programs in Library Land. The first is Science Time Online with Miss Abby. The location of that program is Facebook Live. Then at 1 o'clock is the debut of the latest episode of Library Connections, which you can access through Facebook and YouTube. And then from 6 to 10:30 p.m., we've got Float and Flick at Denison Park, Rock Dog 2. Swimming is from 6 to 8 p.m. at the pool in Denison Park, and the movie starts at dusk. Bring chairs and blankets to watch a movie under the stars, and it is free. And then a little about the movie. It's called Rock Dog 2, Rock Around the Park. It's not rated, 1 hour and 27 minutes. When Bodie and his band True Blue leave Snow Mountain to tour with pop sensation Lil Foxy, they learn that fame comes at a price. This program is in collaboration with the Corning City Parks and Recreation. On Saturday, August 27th, we have one program in Library Land. It's the Yoga in the Parks with Elizabeth Moss program. This is a monthly program. It runs from 2 to 3 p.m. and each month she's in a different park. So this month, for August, it's Kinsella Park. And Elizabeth Moss will be leading a yoga class based on essential yoga poses. This is a class for adults and teens 13 and older. There is no need to sign up, just show up in the park. Please bring your own yoga mat and be prepared to enjoy the great outdoors. If the weather is foul, the class will be live streamed to the library's Facebook page from Crystal Heart Yoga Studios. And briefly, here are our library programs contacts and our references for this week. And that's the program for this week. I'll be back next week with a new edition of Library Connections. Have a great week.